Shlama Mchun. This video is about Zoe, or vowels in Syriac, which are very important, but they work in extremely predictable and concrete ways, which is cool. One of the important things to understand about them is that there are some vowels that are long and some are short. So the easiest ones are the A family and the E family, E as in E. So if you're coming especially from a strong Anglo-American tradition, you have to realize when I'm saying vowels, I'm talking about vowels considered as A, E, O, U. So as in Latin or one of the Romance languages, A, E, O, U. There's no such thing as a vowel that's actually pronounced A. That's a diphthong, even kind of a diphthong consonant cluster. Vowels are always very pure sounds when you're talking about any Semitic language. So if it's E, that's just the sound E, right? Ah. All right, let's proceed. So I use a transliteration system that I strongly urge you to use when you're analyzing classical Syriac, and it will help you tremendously. So there's two vowels that I end up using the A letter of the Latin alphabet to represent. One is short, it's called the ptacha, and that one, because it's short, remains just that A. And then there's a longer one, and it's important, it's also grammatically long. In my second video, I'll introduce some of the specifics using the International Phonetic Alphabet, but this is grammatically long. When I'm talking long and short, I'm talking within Syriac logic, and which is written in the Western like that. That one has a long bar over the A. This system has become pretty much the standard in Syriac, and I have what I think is a very recommendable way of doing it because I've been able to stay pretty consistent with it. So let's practice those two. So a beth, and here we're going to put a beth. A beth has a ptacha. A beth has a ptacha. It's going to be pronounced ba. A beth has a skapa. A beth has a skapa. It's going to be pronounced ba. Ba, ba. Ba, ba, black sheep, and ba, whatever way you want to remember it. The most important thing isn't exactly distinguishing those two sounds in your speech, although if you can do it, that's great. As a matter of fact, West pronouncers, Ma'orboyo, would put this entire long A sound becomes an O. So if you know Hebrew, it's like how certain dialects, especially Ashkenazim, will pronounce this as gametz as an O sound, whereas other dialects, such as I think like in the Syrian dialect or in Sephardic Jews, will pronounce it as an A sound, an ah sound. But when we would pronounce it beskapa, ba, a West Syriac will pronounce it bo. So if you have a word like baba, and you're to directly put it into their dialect and have someone who's West Syriac pronounce it, they pronounce bobo. And I can give you an example that's a little bit more Syriac. The word for uncle is dada, which I believe they pronounce dodo. No big need to know that, but that one really stands out and figures should be addressed. So, going back to our A vowels, we've got the ptacha. And let me just use the letter B to represent it. So this one is short. And then its long partner, skapa. I should give you the names. So this is ptacha. And going back here, we have skapa, 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 which is written or they would pronounce scofo, but I would pronounce this skapa just as the one above. However, let me actually try to be a bit more consistent and transliterate that, which again, we would pronounce that zin with an S sound, skapa, and that just has to do with the z coming before a k, or a k takes an S sound. I will make a video on those rules. They're also in chapter 1 of Gleate's grammar, which is in modern Assyrian. But here I'm just going to mention them. I think just by listening to videos, you'll get it. It's not something that someone would really concentrate on, and it's not going to help you with grammar. So it's zin. Notice I write what's the letter written. That's a zin. So I don't pay attention to how it's pronounced. Ska, pa. And the difference between ptacha and skapa, between that thing on the top, ba, so ba, ptacha, Western would pronounce it aptocho, and ba, skapa. So I will call this short A, this long A vowel. That is just my other word for ptacha, and it's because I'm figuring, not everyone's going to be as quick with it. So the most important thing is that we have several kinds of vowels. That's going to be the second part of this video. 3 kinds of vowels. A vowel that's aricha, which is long, is one that has a long vowel consonant. So a syllable that has a long vowel, it stands on its own. So these are such. These are exactly examples of that. So you have pta and cha, they stand. It's as if this vowel landed on a consonant. We have a closed syllable system. That means we don't like open syllables. If you know Hebrew, that's a little different. So skapa, ska it's qop, and skapa is just as if it was another consonant after that vowel. It's closed. Ska, pa. However, if you have this ptacha, the one on top, or any short vowel, it needs a consonant at its end. For instance, let's take the word righteous. So right there, get down what you need. We have on top the ptacha, the short A vowel, it's 3 forms, below it the skapa. I'm going to move on to dealing with the word for zadiq, zadiqa. And so zadiqa is written Ah, that was daqiqa. That was a test. Hope you passed. Now, you'll notice right at the beginning that we have to figure out what the first syllable is. So, zad is a syllable. And then at the end, you have qa. So you have zad and qa. You can't have an e by itself. So this dalet is going to geminate. It's going to make a twin. And then that's why it's not zalziqa, which would be if there was only one dalet there. This looks like, to someone who isn't trained in Syriac grammar, like it only has one dalet. But to someone who knows Syriac grammar, they see two dalets. They see zad and diq. And it's actually zadiqa. It's not zadiqa. It's zadiqa. And this is one of the things that makes it difficult oftentimes when a native speaker teaches Syriac grammar, is that a lot of us, we never really pay attention to that because we grew up with the prayers, we grew up knowing the pronunciation, and we don't notice how many times we double things. It happens a lot, and it's very important. We can hear it when you're not doing it, especially Eastern pronunciation. Western pronunciation doubles far less. But don't come to me for Western. I mean, I'm just not the master on it. So here you have Zad and D. What am I saying? I'm saying that ptacha forces that dalet to double. If, and this would be shnuzia, would be a breaking of the rules. Why do I keep wanting to go zaqiqa? It can be kind of dumb sometimes, sorry. So, if zadiqa was written like this, with a skapa, you go, oh, that's easy. Za and diq, or D. Because this is a long vowel. It holds its own. Maybe you know Arabic. If in Arabic you have, for instance, a fatha, we can say that's a fatha. But if you have a fatha and then an aleph, that can be a long letter. So this here would be like abtacha. This would be like the ptacha. This would be like the skapa. Another example. This is one that is a personal pet peeve of mine. All the time people will text me and they'll go, Rabbi. Well, we're not saying Rabbi. Rabbi. Notice that there's a ra. There is a hamza there. There is a glottal stop. What we're saying, and let's do it in the Syriac. Here's the word. Here's the word. Well, I can't do that in my transliteration, because in transliteration we have to notice the doubles that already are there in Syriac. And what's happening here is you've got a ptacha that needs that bet. So the first, right? You have a ptacha, a resh ptacha, bet, and a khwasa. Well, that ptacha is a weak vowel. It's a short vowel. So it's going to have that beth. Well, maybe it can be a shortened beth, rao, right? Maybe it can be it ends at the beth, but no, we've got this other vowel here that also needs the beth. So it gets doubled. Rabbi, which is what we say. We never say Rabbi. We say Rabbi, Rabbi, Rabbi Kasha, right? Rabbi and presbyter Kasha. So this right here has two beths in it. If it didn't, we'd be pronouncing it Rawi, because that vowel, that, if it was this, I don't need anything else. I know that that would be a rawi because that vowel would soften that letter. Look back on my Magad Kwath video where I show you how these letters go from ba to wa, ga to ra, da to the, ka to kha, pa to wa, and ta to tha. When another letter, when a vowel comes before them, or when Abdul comes before them. So let's go into our E vowels. So again, our E vowels, they also have two. Here, there's no distinction of quality. There's no difference in the sound. Remember how your skapa, your long skapa, had a, and this had a more rounded ptacha, a. In the E family, there's no difference. You have zlama bshika, or the shorter one, and you have zlama qishya, or the longer one. So that would be b and b, which in the Western is often the same. I'll have to do a video on Western, Eastern. The vowel differences there, that gets a little complicated. But that's b and qishya, or thick, b. And they're both a form of zlama. Of zlama. So you have the short one here on the top, shika, which means it's short or simple, and this is qishya, thick. I'll give you an example that's a really good one to remember. Anytime you said you did something in the past, so that would be the perfect, first person, common, masculine, feminine, common, first person, common, singular of the perfect. You would say, let's take the root to write, kap tau beth, kap tau beth. You have to add to it an eth. So the original tacha that was here in the root, and it's okay if you're not following. If you are, that's for you. If you're not, it's not that important right now. And it becomes ket beth. What's important is knowing that this is ket. And let me give I got to start over again, hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. So let's go back. Take the root tau, and then it's going to be kith, beth, and because this is a complete syllable, that beth is not touched. There's no schwa before it. There's no a schwa, we would call it higyana khtipa, or this is a solid kith and that solid beth. That beth is going to start thick. And we're going to notice how that zlama here, pshika, and here is qishya. So this one here, it's a zlama pshika, pshika, and this is a zlama here, qishya. So this is the simple, this is the thick. Kithbeth. I'm going to take qtal, he killed. Qatleth. Qariyeth. Shilqeth. Qibleth. Or qawleth. And here, kith beth. So you hear that kith beth. There's a thickening to the second one, and it's really good to do, especially if you're a sound learner, and especially if you're reading liturgically. You want to make sure that that is clear, that eth. It's really a marker of I did it in the past when you see it at the end. But that's also a great way to know these two. Zlame is ke and beth. Ke, beth. This one is almost like a chlipa, as a schwa, almost. So I'll just put that up one more time. We've got the short and the longer. I won't put up the Western right now, except to say that both of these in the Western are represented by that sign, both these vowels. And then we write them as Zlama Pshika, as Zlama Qishya, and we call them, they're both Zlame, but this is Pshika, and this is Qishya. So let me transliterate that starting from here, right? I transliterate reading that way and writing this way. So that's a skapa, it's a mim skapa. And then we've got, I'm going to start here. We've got pe, shin, chwasa, e, qop, doubled pshika. Zlama pshika. Zlama qishya, we can do the same thing. Starting from here. Zen lemet skapa, mim skapa, qop, zlama pshika, shin, yud, skapa. Zlama qishya. Now we can roll on into where it gets a bit more complicated. And before that, I'll do the E sound, chwasa. And chwasa uses the letter yud, but this is no longer a yud. There is, among Assyrians, a tendency to say yud chwasa. It's a bit of an elementary mistake. Kids use it, and it's come into adults, but there's no such thing as a yud chwasa unless you're talking about this. This would be a yud chwasa. It would be ye. This yud, when I pronounce it, I'm going to pronounce it. You're going to hear silence because it's a position of my mouth. Now I'm going to pronounce it and pronounce a skapa after it. Ya. So it's just that, this sound. Right? We have the word oo, but when we pronounce oo with our mouth in this position, we go you. So it's a setup in your mouth that throws itself into the vowel that's coming, if that made any sense. This would be a yud chwasa. This is not a yud chwasa. This is just chwasa, e. And similarly, in the Western tradition, it will be written like that, and they'll have that sign before it. Sometimes they'll have that sign alone, but I really haven't seen that. So let's go yud chwasa. So that would be like B, which I would transliterate B, and that's called chwasa. So that's a chet, beth, skapa, sade, skapa. And because the chet is coming right before the beth, there's a schwa right there. Right there, this higyana is a higyana chtipa. and it becomes hwasa. And yeah, so that's hwasa, and that's that E sound. You can also call it the I vowel or E. I probably will say I vowel, and I'm sorry, English does that. I vowel sounds like E. And next is a set of two vowels, both that are also using the letter, the consonant vowel, so that equals that's a vowel. But this, which is pronounced oo, is not a consonant. That is a vowel. It's a vowel known as rwasa. If you didn't instantly get how my transliteration happened there, please look at the video. It's just like the one before. And I'm going to do rwasa again. We've got this vowel, which you'll never see that start. That's something that needs a consonant before it and usually needs a consonant after it. The Western tradition does not distinguish between U and O as these vowels, because coming with the rwasa, so it would always be written with a consonant before it. That's bu. There is bo, so that would be bo, bo. So this is rwasa, and below it you see rwacha. Should be written rwacha, and this would be written rwasa. In the Western tradition, these remain both pronounced as an U. So West Syriac speakers will pronounce both as an U. There's a sign that you'll see sometimes, for instance, when they say the word all, you'll see the manuscript to have that. It means kul. This is the equivalent of both of those above. Some books, like if you have Robinson's Paradigms and Exercises or Coakley's version of it, you'll see where they have a word like taibutha, that although they're writing it all in Western and they're using the Western system and they have that they'll put the dot below. But generally, it's all pronounced as an U in the Western tradition. In the Eastern tradition, sometimes that also happens. It's more sloppy, but you'll hear people say for Savior, paruka. Properly, it would be paroka. And there are grammatical reasons for all of that. But now you have it. Dot below is U, dot above is O. Generally, this is considered a bit more of a strong vowel. But both of them can take both positions, and both tend to like to have a consonant end. They don't have, nothing is as strong as the skapa or the zlamakishya in terms of being able to stand on its own as a consonant. These stand on their own. So if a vowel, this is a higyana, it's a consonant. This is a higyana, it's a consonant. When you're syllabifying it, it's a syllable. It's not a consonant, it's a syllable. This is a syllable. This is a syllable. this is not a syllable. It needs something. This is a syllable. Bal. So, from the top, we've got ptacha, or short A, skapa, or long A, ptacha, short A, is never a higyana syllable by itself. Skapa is always higyana by itself. Well, not just this part, with the consonant before it. So let me state that rule very cleanly. A consonant, whatever consonant it is, that has a skapa, ba, this is a higyana. This is a higyana, a syllable. This is not. This is not, cannot be. So, ptacha, ba, skapa, ba. So long, short A, long A. Zlamapshika, short E. Zlamaqishya, long E. Khwasa, so Beth Khwasa, a B, right, which I'll call a I vowel. I'll say the word vowel after it because, English with its idea of what could be a long, what this could be pronounced as. And then the two twins of the U-O, you've got Ruasa, Bu, you've got Ruasa, and you've got Ruacha, Bo. So those are your 7 standard syllables for Syriac. For the Western tradition, I'll have to do a separate video on the Eastern. And I hope that if you follow with this, that looking at the Western, you can pretty much figure it out. I also have some videos, and I'll link to some Psalms in the video below where you can listen to this and try to identify these vowels. We're really good usually because of how we were taught, saying skapa, ptacha, zlamapshika, zlamaqishya, ruacha, ruasa, khwasa, all those names. I wouldn't, if they're not natural to you, overly emphasize that. You probably should know the names and maybe look up on an online dictionary and discover what they mean, and they all have meanings. But you can also call them short A, short E, long E, E vowel, U vowel, O vowel. As long as you get that these are pure vowels and connect them with these symbols. Now, I'm going to extend this video out even a bit longer because I think the ideas are there. So rewatch if this video gets exhausting. But I want to knock out these difficulties, which is the last one is the types of higyana. Higyana. And a higyana is a syllable. And yes, this has a complication in its hugaya, but that requires some more advanced knowledge of morphology in Syriac. And hugaya is a process by which we turn consonants and vowels and we extract them from the symbols of the page. We understand what the real higyane are through the process of hugaya, of syllabification. Hugaya. So hugaya would be like syllabification. So there are three kinds of higyane. One is a higyana aricha. And you could find this in Alphonse Vignana's Clef de la langue araméenne, or Key to the Aramaic Language. It's in French, and it's, I think, available online. So, aricha is long. And aricha would be like the word for crown, taga. In taga, we've got tauskapa, so that's a solid syllable. We've got agamelskapa, that's a solid syllable. And then because that vowel is landing on that gemel is not being doubled, it will have a soft sound. Taga. Let's take the word, for instance, of chala. You have a chet, skapa, a lemet, skapa, easy, not a hala, but a chala. Each one of these are a higyana aricha. They are a long syllable, a higyana aricha. It's the most solid kind of syllable. And you'll notice that when a higyana aricha ends in a vowel, which is going to be long, it's going to be a zawa aricha. So it's going to be usually one of these two. Sometimes this, sometimes u. If there's one of the softenable letters, if there's after it, they're going to soften, like we saw in taga, right? Taga. Why? Because you've got a nice solid higyana, a second solid higyana, and it's still a vowel, and it will still soften the one after it, and the one after it doesn't have to double or anything, because it's a there's no weak higyana, there's no weak syllable before it that has to steal its consonant and double it in order to make up for its weakness and insecurities in life, right? So think about that. If it was a ptacha on that tau in taga, it would have to steal from that gemel. It doesn't have enough in itself to exist. So aricha exists in itself. It has that long vowel ending, but not. Let's look at another form of that. Would be the word kitawa, a book. It's a very common pattern, and there are patterns that are grammatically predictable for Syriac words, and we can invent words because our grammar is so reliable. But kitawa, again, first thing we can see there is we know exactly the syllables. The first one has, right here, you have a weak higyana, a khtipa, like a schwa. Right there's a little mini zama there, but we don't have to write them all, but it's going to make that tau soft because it's not, I can't even pronounce it, right? There, I have to go tawa. There's a tiny half zama between cap and tau there. Tawa. So, we have a syllable there, and then we have our bet skapa. Because this syllable ends in a vowel, and it can, because it's a long vowel, it becomes ktawa. Ktawa, not ktaba. Now let's go to one that's a bit harder, which is a higyana chisa. So it's a chet, chwasa, sade. And yeah, there would be a doubling here. Chisa, which is like a heaviness to it. So chisa is like thick or heavy, and it's referring to ones that are using that short vowel but have two consonants. Let's give you an example. You've got like our king. Mel, and because it's ours, it's a ptacha. Melkan. So that's a meme, ptacha lemed. A kap, which is not softened because this ends with a nice consonant. Ptacha, or short, a nun. Malkan. Malkan. These are both higane chisa. They are both complete with a consonant. It ends with a. So another example would be like he translates. Tergim, tar, gim. So higana chisa means that each one of these higyane, tau, tacharesh, they're ending in a consonant, in a athuta that is not does not have a vowel. It's just quiet. It's mute. Ter and gim. So these are each solid, and they're not going to affect each other. We said the word before to remember which is the short and which is the long E sound of kith, beth. Notice I didn't say kith with. There's no reason to. You have two higane chisa, two thick. It's like it's standing on its own. It's chisa. It doesn't need. There's no connection between the two. You know, these are really even when you've got those strong like taga we saw. You know, this, even though this is its own higyana, it's not using that gemel. Its vowel is affecting that gemel. Here, they're not affecting each other, even though they're one word. It's keth beth. Keth beth. They're two higyana chise. And the last one is a higyana chtipa. So in modern, we say chtipa. That means like someone kidnapped them. Or even ktawanaya. So chtipa. Because why not? So you can even write the Western with the Eastern script is a chet, a tet, a chwasa, a pe, a skapa. Chtipa. If you look, if you pay attention, let's say the past, he killed, right? There's a q, p, a vowel, and a lemon. Between these two that are smushed together, and they're not higyane chtipa, they're not like kith and beth, there's a q and a th, and you have to go from q to th, and you're going to make a little error in your articulation. It's the schwa, it's the stolen vowel, the chtipa. So it has the quality of the vowel enough that, let's take another root. This is a root with all softenables, all bagad kipath and kthau. Here, that kap, there's a tau, tacha, beth, right? There's a tau, tacha, beth, and that one we know is going to be, that beth is going to be softened. But between the kap and the tau, you've got a mini bit of a vowel. You've got like just a half of a zlama or something, and it's kthau. It's enough to soften it. We wouldn't go Why do we do that? Because imagine if we didn't do that, we would be pronouncing ktau, ktau. No, we're going to pronounce it ktau, ktau. We're going to soften those. And it's because like qtal, qt, there's a between q and ta. Qt, qtal, qtal, qatal. Right? So that's the khtipa. That's a higana khtipa. The kap tau transition is a higana khtipa. This right here. The qop tet transition is a higana khtipa. Not this part. This part. So it's when you have two consonants, one coming after the other in rapid succession at the beginning of a word, or even in the middle of a word. So let's look at some examples of higana khtipe. Would be like, sometimes you have the word Lord. Maria. Mar. That's a nice higana aricha. Ma. Mar. Ya. And before it, let's say in the Lord. My hope is in the Lord. We put a beth. Right here between that, there's a higana khtipa. That beth to meme, this part right here, is a higana khtipa. So it's Maria. If it was Baktawa, it would be not Baktawa, but Bakhtawa. And that's the real reason for the rule that I have in my other video, why we have what we call the rule of Badul, which is much more like an elementary school rule. For someone who doesn't yet know all the rules, but they need to know that if one of these four come before one of these six, the one of the six is going to be softened by the one of the four. So, if you have a l, and then, lderta, it'll be lderta. If you have like a l, albeita, it'll be lweita. But really what's happening is that beta, with the lemon before it, gains a higana khtipa right there. This l is a higana khtipa. So if we had a schwa, like you do in Hebrew, every time a plata, every time bdul would be used, that schwa would go on it. Schwa, so like two dots underneath. So in case that helps, you can think of it that this maplata, they really work as if they were because we don't have this part. We don't have the schwa marker. And that when you have something in a word, like it's like in Hebrew, if you had we don't do that. I mean, that would be a long E, right? For us, that would be Islama Qishya. So we don't have that marker. But that is the Zaw'a Khtipa, or the Higyana Khtipa. Or the Zaw'a Khtipa. So, quick review, 3 kinds of higyana, 3 kinds of syllables. You have the aricha, which is like, it ends like that, it ends with a long vowel. You have the chisa, That didn't need to go there. Which is like, right, it's consonant, short vowel, consonant. And then you have the khtipa, which is the one that is only known by the grammarian who has sat here through all 50 minutes of Syriac vowels. The khtipa, and that one is like, kthau. It's the vowel that comes before the real vowel. It's the little mini vowel that's hiding here somewhere. It's the one that comes before, like in the king, b'melka. There's like a little E sound there, but it's a really weak E sound, b'melka. And I hope that helps you. Please subscribe and turn on notifications, which is that bell-like symbol. Hit it so you get my future videos. And comment below in ways that we can keep helping. Thank you very much, and God bless, and goodbye.